Hello and welcome to the Blood Reds Morning Bulletin. I'm joined by my fellow Liverpool.com writer, Emmet Gates, to discuss last night's events and Liverpool's upcoming fixtures. Liverpool rode their luck at times against Nottingham Forest, didn't they? It was a pretty even game, and then on came Diogo Jota with one chance and one goal, and that decided the tie in the end. What did you make of the fixture and the game as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, it was never going to be an easy game. Forest are in a good run of form in the Championship, and obviously it was they were on a home turf, so it was never going to be easy for Liverpool. Even if Jurgen Klopp had put out, the strongest 11, it was the nature of the tie. It was never going to be that easy. And obviously, Klopp put out a kind of mixed side as he tends to do in the cup competitions, and it was definitely a very even game. And I think in the end, Liverpool just about shaded it. And obviously, Diogo Jota's goal. I don't think he had the greatest of games, but he came up when it mattered most, and it secured Liverpool's passes into the semi-final. So I mean, yeah, it was definitely. You would definitely look back and say it was the toughest draw or the toughest game Liverpool have had in this run so far.
Yeah, and now that sets up a tie with Manchester City. Again, they'll be playing them in the space of, I think, about a week or so. So a very special tie in the Premier League that could decide the Premier League title race, and then after that, at Wembley, an FA Cup semi-final to potentially decide another trophy. Do you think Liverpool fans Liverpool will be looking forward to those fixtures, or kind of hoping that they got someone else instead?
Yeah, I'd say the game against City probably came around too early. You'd imagine most Liverpool fans and probably City fans, for that matter too, would like the two teams to meet in the final as opposed to the semi-final. So it's maybe just come around too soon. But I mean, there'll be two good games, and especially in they're 6 days apart. If I remember rightly. So yeah, the the focus and the tension in those 6 weeks is for both sets of fans are going to be off the charts. And yeah, I wish it had been around later. But I suppose in saying that, if Liverpool win, you kind of think whoever wins this tie will win the FA Cup. So whoever if Liverpool win, City's out of the way, and then they're on to the final. And if City beat Liverpool, Liverpool's out of the way, City's on to the final. So yeah, I definitely do think that as a showpiece event, a City Liverpool final would have been brilliant. But unfortunately, that's not how the draw turned out, and they're meeting around early. But yeah, that week is going to be huge.
I'd say so as well, and obviously in the final, Liverpool could still meet Chelsea again, so there's the possibility of playing them in two finals in a row, and in the Champions League potentially as well. Although I think City are more likely to get through that. But that's the interesting part, isn't it? Because it's not just going to be those fixtures. There's going to be a few. There's going to be a Champions League second leg in between that, and after Liverpool come back from the international break, they still have to play Watford and Benfica in the first leg before they face City in the Premier League. So there's a lot of fixtures in between in those first couple of weeks when Liverpool are back. So it's going to be interesting, isn't it, to see how Liverpool deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the fixtures and you look at what City have coming up, I think definitely Liverpool can be the happier, in the sense that City have Atletico first leg, Liverpool, Atletico, Liverpool in the space of about 2 weeks or a week, 10 days. I mean, Liverpool's is slightly easier with Benfica, City, Benfica, City. But yeah, I mean, I'd say within those 2 weeks, it will decide a lot for what is the remainder of the season. And obviously, all the two teams are linked and everything. The FA Cup, the league, the Champions League. It's all intertwined. What will happen, I think, over those 2 weeks will kind of shape how the season plays out ultimately.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think it's going to be very, very exciting and interesting to see what will happen. As a player, I'm sure Liverpool players will be eager to play as many games as possible. This is the kind of situation, both as a fan and as a player, you want to be in, uh, competing for all four trophies, having already won one of them towards the last 2 months of the season. But I think April in particular promises to be enticing even beyond those two Manchester City fixtures, because Liverpool still have two derby games after that. First, they go to I think they welcome Manchester United at home to Anfield, and then another home game against Everton as well, both in the Premier League. So it's
Yeah,
going to be a very, very busy period. On top of that, I think they face Newcastle, and if Liverpool do advance to the later stages of the semi-finals of the Champions League, potentially face either Bayern and Villarreal in the first leg of that fixture as well. So that's a lot of fixtures, isn't it, in 1 month?
yeah. I mean, it's a lot of big games, but in saying that, you kind of analyze them and you think, this season anyway, games against Man United and Everton, that's no big challenge these days, considering the way both teams are at the moment. I mean, Everton got absolutely slaughtered by Palace yesterday. So, I mean, yeah, the Merseyside derby, I mean, it's always a derby and city pride and all that, but I mean, Liverpool should comfortably win. United, we all saw what Liverpool did to them at Old Trafford. I mean, they've marginally improved since then. Again, it's the name on paper that sounds more threatening than the actual team. And even with Bayern, like Bayern really aren't the team that they were when they won the Champions League less than 2 years ago. Like they've got that wee bit older and they haven't really brought in any, brilliant players in the meantime. Obviously Thiago left, has come to Liverpool. So I mean, again, like a Liverpool Bayern semi final on paper sounds menacing, but I don't think in reality it's not the Bayern of 2020. I don't think. On United, on Everton, definitely aren't. This isn't vintage sides. So I mean, yeah, it's April will be a crazy month because obviously Liverpool are going to be in all the remaining competitions. So it's just I think how Jurgen Klopp manages the side rotation will be key, and just hope that there's no major injuries crop up between the start of April and the end of April.
Yeah, I think as well the fact that, like you said, both Everton and Manchester United are not in great form, but they will be both fighting for the idea. You probably think the top four and Everton relegation, so there will be extra motivation in there for them. But I think the advantage Liverpool have is that they'll have Anfield, and their atmosphere, and the potential of still competing for the Premier League title at that point, which I think we've seen in previous seasons when Liverpool were in with the run-in. The atmosphere at Anfield can be incredible at times. I think I still remember vividly the Liverpool game against Manchester City in 2013 and 14 when Liverpool won 3-2. That kind of atmosphere will surely be present in those derby matches as well.
Yeah, especially even if the games themselves, it'll be a mismatch in terms of quality, but Liverpool fans always want to always want to see Liverpool beat United and Everton. No matter how bad or what state the opposition is in. Those games. You would arguably say those two games matter the most to Liverpool fans in terms of just you know having bragging rights over the blue half of Liverpool, and then obviously United being the old rivals. So Anfield will be rocking those two nights, and then on the European nights against Benfica, and then whoever, fingers crossed, whoever they meet in the semi final, it'll be the same. So Anfield will definitely play its part in pushing Liverpool forward. When you're looking at a quadruple, maybe you know. It's difficult to say if Liverpool can win the quadruple. I don't see why they cannot, but you think they might slip up somewhere. It's just no English team has ever won the quadruple. So I mean, Liverpool will be going against history, but Anfield and the supporters will definitely play the part, especially in those big games.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that if Liverpool do win the quadruple, it will likely be decided in April
Yeah,
already rather than May. But obviously, before all of those fixtures, there's the international break, and a lot of Liverpool players are involved in important games in that. Qualification for the World Cup, for example, later on in the year. Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah will be taking each other on again in a repeat of the African Cup of Nations final. On top of that, I think Diego Jota is going to be involved with Portugal for their very important qualifiers. Do you think that will have an impact on Liverpool's season? The fact that some of their key players are going to be involved in all these important fixtures as well, rather than I think a lot of City players are going to be playing friendlies. I mean, obviously for Portugal, Ruben Diaz is going to be involved and a couple of the other Portuguese contingent from City, but a lot of them are going to be playing friendlies this month rather than very intense, you'd imagine, games with a lot at stake.
yeah, exactly. And it's not like you can go a half pace or whatever. In a World Cup playoff for friendlies, you need to, with friendlies players, but get 45 minutes. They're taken off. It's a friendly. So, unless you're kind of winning trying to impress, the national team coach and win your place, the likes of Mane and Salah, they're just playing friendlies. They mightn't even be called up because their place is secure. So, yeah, it's definitely come at a bad time. Some of Liverpool's players having to play in World Cup playoffs. So you just hope that the key issue is that they don't come back injured. And in saying that, Liverpool's squad now, especially in attacking areas, Jurgen Klopp has plenty of options now, and obviously Mane and Salah are two of the most pivotal parts of the attack. But I don't think it's the worry that it was maybe like we sat here in January worrying about what Liverpool would do without Mane and Salah, and they were fine. Yes, the fixture list in January was favourable compared to say in April if they come back and maybe they pick up a knock or whatever if they're injured. But I don't think it's the worry that it once was. But yeah, you just hope that they do come back injury free, and then maybe Jurgen Klopp could afford to rest them, ease them back in before giving them starts from the off with in the bigger games. So yeah, it's definitely not come at the best time.
Yeah, with April coming up, I think Klopp will be hoping that everyone stays fit because I'm sure he will need the whole squad. Um, I think that about wraps it up for today. Thank you for joining me, Emmett, and thanks for tuning in. Make sure to check out the rest of the Blood Red content going out today and all the written content on Liverpool.com.